What's up guys, Agent here again with another PTS video, and today we're going to be exploring axes versus great swords for two-handed DPS, for stamina DPS. The main reason why we're taking a look at this is because the axe bleed was changed on Scalebreaker PTS to be a little bit more potent, and so naturally the question arose as to whether it'd be worth using the battle axe for the bleed versus the greatsword for the damage. Currently on Elsweyr, they're both fairly neck and neck, with the sword being a little bit more consistent, and so a lot of guys are, pushing more towards the sword rather than the axe. However, with the new Scalebreaker buff to the axe bleed, it might make it end up with the axe being a little bit stronger, and we'll go over a little bit of the mathematics behind why that's the case. So the first thing I want to go over is really the math, basically what we're taking a look at in terms of parses, and then we'll actually take a look at the parses themselves, so you guys can take a look at the different differences between an axe parse and a sword parse. So real quickly though, I do want to take a note of the passives under the two-handed line. So we're taking a look at the heavy weapons passive here. So swords give us an additional 6% in damage done modifier as long as we're on the greatsword bar. The axe bleed is an 18% chance to apply a bleed that deals, I am on a dual wield bar so this is not entirely accurate, but 13,170 physical damage over 6 seconds. Now, I believe what it was is the bleed was strengthened and it deals a damage every single second rather than every 2 seconds now. So a little bit stronger, and I also believe they upped the chance to apply the bleed as well. But mostly it's just the damage and the additional ticks from the bleed damage itself that made heavy weapons, as well as the dual wield passive as well. So why we're using dual wield with axe is because the twin blade and blunt also got buffed as well. So basically, that's what we're taking a look at. Does the additional 60% damage done, does that outweigh the additional bleed damage that is being dealt by the axe bleed? Now, the 6% damage done is not actually flat 6% damage done. If we head over to the our calculator here, over here you will see that there are a lot of different modifiers, damage done modifiers, that you gotta take into consideration as well. So you have, for example, minor berserk, which is 8%, minor slayer, which is 5%. You have all your CPs, so that would be master at arms and thaumaturge. Those usually will be averaging anywhere between like 21 to 18%, really depends on the class specifically. So we're just taking an average of maybe about 20% increased damage done from your CPs. Then you have Major Slayer, which is 15%, and then you have your final Great Swords, 6% here. So that's what you got to compare it to, and so because you have a lot of different damage done modifiers, your actual 6% is actually going to be a little bit less than that. So the actual amount that you'd be getting from your greatsword is going to be closer to about 4% when you have Major Slayer active. And so that's basically the magic number that we have to beat here. Basically, the axe bleed, when it comes to how much damage it does on a combat metrics report, needs to beat out this 4%. Now, on the live server right now, it's pretty tricky to get up to that 4% with the axe bleed. It's closer to about 3.5. Sometimes you can get it up to 4%, but for the most part on the live server and elsewhere, it was a little bit difficult to get up to that number. However, in Scalebreaker, it's actually fairly easy to get up to that number. So now we're going to take a look at the actual parses themselves. So this first parse here is with the axe bleed. So you can see here that the heavy weapons bleed did about 5.2% of our DPS, which is clearly higher than the 4% that is the minimum that we need in order to get up to that level there. And then our greatsword parse was 80.6k instead. So you can see here that if you are going to be doing a two-handed front bar build for your stamina DPS, you will want to run the axe instead. The additional bleed damage that it was applied during Scalebreaker does seem to end up beating out the greatsword parse. Now, I do want to caution you that the axe bleed is RNG. It is a percentage chance, 16% chance to proc on any sort of weapon skills from the two-handed line, as well as your light attacks and heavy attacks. So you are kind of at the mercy of the RNG gods a little bit here. So if the RNG doesn't like you very much, then there is a possibility that the sword will beat out the Greataxe. But I would hazard to guess that on average, and more often than not, I'd even wager the axe is going to end up beating out the greatsword there. So for those of you guys who do run two-handed builds, I would say swap over to Greataxe if you haven't done so already. It's going to be stronger than your greatsword now. So that is it for this video. This is probably going to be one of the last PTS videos before we start going into build videos here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.